Start tonight with the meeting between Alachua County Public Schools and the Florida Board of Education.
The two groups discussed the recently retracted LGBTQ+ guide for the district. TV20's Ethan Badowski tells us how things proceed from here.
It makes me really uncomfortable. Everybody has a right to, to be where they are and be who they are.
Alachua County Public Schools removed their LGBTQ+ guide for students after it was found it violated state policy. The school board met with the Florida Board of Education to confirm the guide has been updated.
Alachua Schools has removed the critical support guide from their website and has taken action to update bathroom, locker room, and dressing room policies.
Alachua was found to be in violation of the Parental Rights in Education bill, also known as the Don't Say Gay law. One of the areas where the county was not in compliance of the bill was locker room and restroom rules. The other areas included student privacy, names and pronouns, as well as gender-based rules. One LGBTQ+ activist says these changes could be extremely harmful to students.
School administrators and teachers in Alachua County can now out students to their parents. And that is tremendously dangerous because, as we know, many parents are not supportive. It could lead to them being kicked out of their houses. It could lead, like I said, to depression, to suicide.
Alachua was one of 10 districts that was found to be out of compliance with state law. After school board leaders updated the policy, it was ruled to be in compliance.
We would collaborate with the Florida Department of Education prior to any implementation of a new guide, because we want to ensure that we are in compliance with all state laws and state Board of Education rules.
The board has set a target date of February 8th to present a draft of a new policy at a school board workshop. In Gainesville, Ethan Badowski, TV20 News.